Reggie's Corner Variety Gaming.
Welcome to this review for the game The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. So this review is of a game that I've done a complete Let's Play through on this very channel, and I thought now that we're done with that I should give you my thoughts about how I felt it was. So this game came out way back in 2002, and I think it was originally developed by WXP for the original Xbox, but it was ported to Game Boy Advance, PlayStation 2 and to Microsoft PC by Surreal Software. So the Surreal Software version of this game is the one that I've played through just now. And it was published by Vivendi Universal Games in North America. I think it's the same for whichever PC version you come across. And this game uses the license to adapt J.R.R. Tolkien's novel, The Fellowship of the Ring. So it's the very first volume of the trilogy that this game follows. And I think a lot of people's thoughts about this game were affected by Peter Jackson's movie, The Lord of the Rings, which came out just the year before this game did and kind of swept everyone away. So I'm not sure if it was just bad timing on this game's part or if it was trying to cash in on the success of the movie, but in the long run I think the movie's success hurt this game pretty bad. Anyway, this game got mixed reviews when it came out, but I will give you kind of my thoughts about it. So this game is an action adventure game and it's played from a third person's perspective, and as the player you control several people, but 3 characters I think you will get to be, Frodo Baggins, Aragorn and Gandalf the Grey, and they all have their special abilities and weapons and way to kind of play the game. I think Frodo could be the only one who can sneak and jump, and Gandalf can push things and cast magic, and Aragorn has the most health. He's kind of the physical guy and he uses his sword obviously. Other than that, it's not too much difference between them. The game itself kind of follows the book actually. It's kind of surprised me, but it's somewhat faithful to the novel. I mean, the movie did change a few things to make it work on the big screen, but this game has a few of the things that the Peter Jackson's movie left out. You have Tom Bombadil, the Old Forest, and several of the smaller locations. You hang around in Bree for quite a bit, and you also have the bit where you have to look for, I think it's Pippin, out in the village when he's lost for a bit. So they've added stuff, or not really added, they've kept stuff in that the movies did away with. And that in itself was kind of cool. You also get to face like Old Man Willow as a boss and stuff like that. So graphics wise, I would call this game an average experience. It's not super ugly, not even now. I mean, unless you're very particular about stuff like that. It's workable, and back then it was probably pretty okay for its time, I would think. Story-wise, well, you can't really fault it for sticking to the novel. The novel is the novel, and I thought they were overall kind of faithful to it. They didn't add a lot of stuff that wasn't in there or could be in there, if that makes sense. There were a lot more trolls in this game than there ever was in the books. So that kind of broke immersion a few times. There were a lot of like wolf attacks, and stuff like that. But in a game which is an action adventure game, you need to have a lot of enemies, otherwise it would be pretty dull. So they took their artistic license by adding a lot of smaller enemies to skirmish with, and that kind of worked for me. I don't think I know of any other way to like add action elements without just duplicating normal grunts. Aside from that though, the game never got any sequels. So this is the only game in this series. So you should know that by going in. Like, you will never see how this ends, so to speak, but it follows the first novel and it kind of ends where the first novel ends, and the first movie as well. So you will see the similarity there. And if I could say anything, it kind of added a little bit abruptly. It was like a boss fight and, you know, curtains down, end of the game, and not much more after that. So I think they just sort of assumed that they would get to pick this up in another 2 games after this. Overall, I would say that I would give this like a 3 out of 5. A bit of it is nostalgia because I kind of remember when I got this game way back when it came out, and yeah, those were good times. So it has like a half point just because I've had it for so long and always wanted to play it. But other than that, I think maybe time has helped it a little bit, because now it doesn't really have to be so harshly compared to the movies, and it can kind of stand on its own 2 feet. So I would, for a Tolkien buff or like a vintage gaming buff, I would give this a soft thumbs up, or like a why not try it out kind of a thing. And for anyone else, it might be fun to look at it for a bit just to see how far games have come since, but also kind of see a video game adaptation of a book done somewhat faithfully. Even if you don't really like how it looks, it tried to make the most out of the novel, and I thought they nailed that part pretty well. Anyway, that is kind of my review of this 2002 game, and I hoped it gave some of you out there some information, some thoughts, and some meat on the bone, so to speak, if you want to pick this game up and what to expect. Other than that, I don't really have much more to add, so I hope to see you again out there in video game land. But for now, bye bye.